Control is not strength. It's insecurity in disguise. This truth is often misunderstood because society has long associated male dominance with leadership and silence with power. But real strength has nothing to do with how loud a man talks, how much he tries to monitor you, or how firmly he lays down rules. Real strength is calm, confident, and secure. It doesn't need to dominate or manipulate. When a man feels the need to control your movements, your friendships, your choices, or even your thoughts, what he's really revealing is a deep, unresolved fear of losing control, not over you, but over himself. A secure man doesn't need to know your every move to feel safe. He trusts you because he's built a relationship on communication and mutual respect. But a man who constantly questions who you're texting, wants to read your messages, gets nervous when you go out with friends, or accuses you of things without proof, that's not protecting his relationship, that's protecting his ego. And the problem with ego is it always fears being exposed. A man rooted in strength knows who he is and doesn't view your independence as a threat. He sees it as a blessing. Insecurity thrives where there is no self-worth. A man who hasn't healed from past betrayal or abandonment, who hasn't worked through his own emotional wounds, will bring all that damage into your life. Instead of healing, he starts policing. Instead of growing, he starts restricting. He thinks keeping a woman on a short leash will keep her loyal, but all it really does is breed resentment and emotional suffocation. You can't love someone you don't trust. And you can't trust someone if you're always trying to own them. Control becomes a wall, and behind it is fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear of being hurt. It doesn't start loud, it starts small. It might be disguised as care at first. Let me pick you up so you don't have to go alone. I don't like you talking to that guy. He's not good for you. Why are you posting that? You don't need that kind of attention. But slowly it turns. That care becomes commands. The affection turns into tension. The checking in turns into checking up. The relationship becomes more about control than connection. And the sad part is, many women don't even notice the shift because they confuse control with protection. But protection nurtures. It doesn't confine. Protection makes you feel safe, not scared to speak your truth. A strong man doesn't fear your freedom. He encourages it. He doesn't feel small when you're powerful, and he doesn't compete with you. He compliments you. A weak man wants to feel like the center of your world because he's not the center of his own. He wants your entire focus because he hasn't learned how to hold his own identity. He thrives on controlling you because it gives him the illusion of stability. But the truth is, anyone who needs control to feel secure is already unstable inside. Control isn't just about jealousy. Sometimes it's about masking deeper insecurities. He might not feel good enough for you, so he overcompensates by trying to micromanage the relationship. He might carry trauma from his past, and instead of healing, he repeats the cycle. He might fear abandonment so deeply that he would rather cage you than lose you. And none of those things are your fault, but they become your burden when you mistake them for love. A man who's controlling doesn't want a partner, he wants possession. He wants to be the reason you laugh, cry, think, breathe, and at first that might feel intense, even romantic. But love that suffocates is not love, it's control in disguise. The moment you feel like you need permission to be yourself, to speak freely, to move in your own rhythm, you're not in a relationship anymore, you're in a prison. Control always comes from lack. lack of self-trust, lack of peace, lack of emotional maturity. Strength, on the other hand, comes from wholeness. A man who is whole doesn't need to monitor your every step because he knows what he brings to the table and he trusts you enough to let you sit at it freely. He's not trying to win against you, he's trying to win with you. He's not threatened by your voice, he values it. And when conflict arises, he communicates instead of commands. The difference between control and strength lies in intention. One is fueled by fear, the other by love. Control wants to own. Strength wants to understand. Control silences you. Strength listens to you. Control isolates you. Strength empowers you. When you understand that truth, you stop mistaking toxicity for passion and start recognizing insecurity for what it is, a cry for control from someone who doesn't feel in control of themselves. Emotional silence equals emotional immaturity. It may not look like weakness on the surface because silence can wear a mask that looks like strength, mystery, or calmness, but underneath it is often the inability to process, express, or even understand one's own feeling. A man who shuts down emotionally, who disappears in moments of emotional intensity, who avoids hard conversations, or gives you nothing but "I'm fine and don't worry about it," is not protecting peace. He's avoiding growth. That kind of silence isn't maturity. It's fear in disguise. So many men are raised to believe that showing emotion is weakness, that crying is soft, that vulnerability makes them less of a man. They're taught to hold it in, suck it up, push through, and keep it moving. But holding it in doesn't make you strong. It just makes you unavailable. And you can't build real intimacy with someone who isn't emotionally present. A relationship is more than just being physically there. If a man can't meet you emotionally, then he's only giving you a part of himself and expecting you to be fulfilled with the scraps. Emotional maturity is being able to say, "This hurt me, I'm scared, I don't know how to handle this," or "I need help." That takes strength, that takes courage. But the emotionally silent man, he either doesn't have the tools or refuses to use them. He may ghost you when there's conflict. He may go completely cold when things get serious, or he may shut you out with a wall so high that no matter how much love you give, it never gets through. And here's the trap. Some women think they can love a man enough to open him up. They believe that if they're patient, nurturing, and consistent, one day he'll come around. But emotional maturity doesn't come from someone else's love. It comes from personal accountability and self-reflection. A man who's emotionally immature will often make you feel guilty for expressing your emotions. If you cry, you're too sensitive. If you ask for more, you're too needy. If you try to talk about the relationship, he says, "Why do we always have to talk about feelings?" Instead of listening, he withdraws. Instead of empathizing, he gets defensive. He turns your emotional needs into a burden, not because they are, but because he doesn't know what to do with them. And so he makes you feel wrong for even having them. That's not strength. That's emotional immaturity hiding behind avoidance. You can't build with someone who won't engage emotionally. You can't create connection when one person refuses to connect. It's like trying to dance with someone who won't move. They're on the floor, but they're not moving with you. They're stiff, detached, and distant. And the longer you try to lead that dance alone, the more exhausted and resentful you become. Eventually, you start doubting yourself. You start wondering if you're asking for too much. But the truth is, you're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. An emotionally immature man may not be cruel. He may not be a liar or a cheater. He may actually be kind, loyal, and good-hearted. But if he's emotionally unavailable, he's still not ready. He hasn't learned to face his own feelings, let alone hold space for yours. He'll keep things shallow. He'll avoid hard truths. He'll stay on the surface because going deep feels dangerous to him. He may want love, but not the responsibility that comes with it. And love, real love, demands presence, effort, and vulnerability. It's not enough to show up with gifts, promises, or gestures if you can't show up with heart. Real connection requires you to be seen fully, emotionally, and without armor. A man who can't talk about his pain, who won't admit when he's wrong, or who avoids emotional conversations like they're fire, is someone still afraid of his own reflection. And when someone's afraid of themselves, they can't be trusted to protect you emotionally either. Emotional silence becomes a cycle. The more silent he is, the more confused you feel. The more confused you feel, the more effort you put in, and the more you chase clarity, the more he retreats. That dynamic drains the life out of love. It creates distance, doubt, and emotional starvation. You're together, but you're alone. You talk, but nothing's ever said. You cry, but no comfort ever comes. And over time, your emotional needs start to feel like a weakness when in reality, they're the exact measure of your emotional health. So when a man chooses silence in the face of vulnerability, understand what you're dealing with. Not a rock, not a strong wall, but a scared heart. One that hasn't learned how to feel and stay present. One that chooses silence over intimacy, withdrawal over communication, and comfort over courage. That silence may be loud with pride, but it's empty of connection. And love cannot live in silence. Insecurity often looks like swagger. It walks into the room like it owns everything, head high, chest out, talking loud, name dropping, showing off the watch, the car, the brand names like they're badges of honor. But if you look a little deeper, past the surface, what you really see is a man trying desperately to prove something, not to you, but to himself. Swagger can be a performance, often a shield, a costume that insecure men put on to hide the parts of themselves they hope no one notices. The fear of not being enough, not being chosen, not being admired, not being validated, it all gets dressed up in confidence, but it lacks substance. A man who's truly secure doesn't need to announce it. He doesn't need to dominate the room, one-up everyone, or be the loudest voice in the circle. His energy speaks for him. He's grounded. He knows who he is, with or without an audience. But the insecure man? He feeds on attention like oxygen. He seeks validation in how many women he can charm, how much money he can flash, how many likes he gets on his posts. It's not confidence, it's compensation. He's filling an internal void with external praise. That kind of swagger is exhausting because it needs to be maintained constantly. The moment he feels ignored, he starts to spiral. The second someone else gets more attention, he gets competitive, irritated, or suddenly withdrawn. His sense of worth is dependent on how much he's admired in that moment. He can't handle being overlooked because his self-esteem is paper thin. And what happens in relationships is that he brings this same energy into his love life. He needs to be constantly reassured. He'll expect you to notice his every move, praise him endlessly, and feed the image he's trying to project. And if you don't, he'll say you don't appreciate him, that you're cold, or that you don't understand what he brings to the table. The truth is, a lot of women confuse this performance with real masculinity. It looks bold, it looks ambitious, it looks like a man who knows what he wants. But real confidence doesn't need to be loud. Real confidence isn't boastful, it's steady, it's quiet strength. It doesn't have to prove because it already knows. Insecurity tries to impress. Confidence tries to connect. And there's a huge difference between the two. An insecure man with swagger will often turn a relationship into a competition. If you're doing well, he might act supportive on the surface, but deep down he feels threatened. If you're getting compliments, achieving more, or being noticed, his reaction will eventually shift. He might subtly downplay your success, make jokes at your expense, or suddenly become distant. That's not love, that's ego. That's a man whose worth is so fragile that even your shine becomes a threat to his identity. You'll notice how quickly his energy changes when things don't go his way. A secure man can handle rejection, a no, a disagreement. An insecure man, he'll sulk, throw a passive-aggressive jab, or go cold. Swagger only works when he's being admired. The moment someone sees past the performance, he gets uncomfortable. He might lash out, blame others, or retreat into silence. That's because swagger is external. It's not rooted in self-awareness or emotional maturity. A lot of these men were never taught to build their worth from the inside. Maybe they were praised for what they had, not who they were. Maybe their only model of strength was dominance. Maybe they grew up in environments where vulnerability was mocked and achievements were the only form of value. So they learned to dress themselves in ego, in flash, in performance. But the danger comes when you fall for the act and ignore the man behind it. Because behind all that swagger, there's often a scared boy, one who's never been taught how to love without impressing, how to be vulnerable without feeling exposed, how to sit still without seeking attention. You'll feel it in the way he talks about other people, always needing to compare, to prove he's better. You'll hear it in his stories, how everyone else was wrong, how he always wins, how no one believed in him, but now look at him. There's nothing wrong with pride in your journey, but when the narrative is always about proving something, it's rooted in insecurity, not purpose. When a man is truly confident, he doesn't need to shrink you or shine over you. He's not afraid of your voice, your power, or your success. He welcomes it. He stands next to it without needing to outdo it. Swagger is loud. Insecurity is louder. But confidence is quiet, consistent, and unshakable, and it never needs to be performed. Your power shouldn't threaten him. The strength in your voice, the brilliance in your mind, the ambition in your heart, and the way you carry yourself with purpose and intention, none of that should make a man feel small. If it does, he was never tall enough to stand beside you in the first place. A secure man doesn't shrink in the presence of a powerful woman. He stands firm, he supports, he celebrates. He's unstoppable not to start. So the secure man doesn't shrink in the presence of a powerful woman. He stands firm, he supports, but when a man is threatened by your confidence, your independence, your success, or even just your self-respect, what he's really telling you is that he hasn't made peace with his own identity. There are men out there who say they want a strong woman, but only if that strength is convenient. Only if she doesn't outshine them. Only if her power doesn't challenge them. Only if she stays just a step behind. Because the moment she walks in her full truth, suddenly she's too much, too loud, too confident, too opinionated, too successful. That's not about you being too much. That's about him being too little in spirit to handle what you naturally are. A man who's truly secure will admire your ambition, not try to dim it. He won't feel the need to compete or control. He won't turn moments of your shine into reflections of his inadequacy. In fact, he'll encourage you to dream bigger, push further, and reach higher, because he knows your wins don't take anything away from his. He sees partnership, not competition. He understands that iron sharpens iron, and your growth is a benefit to the relationship, not a threat to his pride. But a man who hasn't done the inner work will feel every ounce of your strength as a personal attack. He'll feel unseen if the spotlight isn't on him. He'll start to chip away at your confidence, not through obvious insults, but with subtle digs. Little comments that make you question your choices, your success, your identity. He'll mask his insecurity as jokes. You work too much. You think you know everything. You always want to be in control. Those aren't jokes. That's discomfort disguised as humor. That's his way of saying, tone it down so I can feel tall. Some men are drawn to powerful women because of how magnetic that energy is. But once they have her, they try to contain her, like trying to catch fire in their hands and getting mad when they get burned. You were never meant to fit in his comfort zone. You were meant to be loved as you are. Bold, evolving, driven, and limitless. The right man won't flinch when you speak your truth. He'll lean in. He won't back away from your ambition. He'll ask how he can support it. He won't be afraid of your light. He'll stand proudly next to it because he has his own. If you ever feel like you need to dim who you are to keep your relationship peaceful, that's not peace. That's suppression. And suppressed power always turns into internal frustration. You'll start playing small, second-guessing your choices, downplaying your wins, just to make him feel secure. But love shouldn't require you to abandon your own potential. A man who loves you in pieces only loves what he can manage. The one who truly sees you will love you in your fullness. There's a difference between being humble and being hidden. A secure man will never require you to hide your gifts so he can feel like a man. He'll want to build with you, not compete against you. He'll ask questions about your dreams, not change the subject. He'll see your power as a reflection of your purpose, not a challenge to his masculinity. Because true masculinity is not intimidated by feminine strength. It honors it, protects it, and respects it. Your power isn't just in what you say or do, it's in your energy, your discernment, your ability to walk away from what doesn't serve you. And that alone will scare a man who only knows how to love women who need him more than they love themselves. When you love yourself fully, when you know what you bring to the table, when you refuse to settle, you become a mirror to any man's insecurity. And insecure men don't like mirrors. They like shadows. They like spaces where they feel big, because everything around them is small. But you were never meant to live in a shadow. You were born to be seen, to be heard, to be valued for exactly who you are. A man who's truly ready won't be shaken by your power. He'll be drawn to it, inspired by it, and proud to walk beside it without trying to overshadow it. And anything less than that isn't worthy of you.